Wonderful. Welcome. It is Tuesday, June 14th, a beautiful early evening in Multnomah Village in the Multnomah neighborhood. This is the general meeting for June of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Appreciate you. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to give you updates on, and so I want to let's get into the logistics of this all. First off, the agenda was posted in a folder that was linked to the email notification yesterday. You're welcome to look at it, and I can also put it into the screen share it here. And I would ask if for approval, also the minutes from the previous meeting were posted in that folder as well. And if there are any corrections, are there any corrections to the agenda or to the previous minutes?
Moses?
Yes, sir.
I want to make a comment about those minutes for the prior meeting because it's a fairly unusual situation. I was able to link the topic on the agenda, on the minutes, excuse me, to the periods, minute, and hour where that discussion started. So if you get a brief summary of what happened, you can click on the link and then hear the exact recording of what people actually said. It's a technical innovation we were able to do because of the way the logs are set up.
So if there are no further corrections, the minutes, or pardon me, the agenda is approved as stated. And the minutes from the last meeting are approved as read. As distributed, I should say. Let's see here. Now, let's get straight. Okay, you'll notice on the agenda that the third part of this first section of the meeting, we were talking about a Sweeney communications update. That's a short way of saying, and we're going to give you some more detail about that. So that's a short way of saying that since mid-May, we have not had email or storage to be able to for our files, our history. In addition, we lost a lot of our historical files, access to them. I'm going to let Will give a summary of what happened and how we've been dealing with this. But it's been a heck of a situation. Only yesterday, day before, did I actually get my email back online, the multnomah-chair@sweeney.org. And it's been down for 3 weeks. And so anywho, let me pass the baton here to Will and let him explain what we've been dealing with for the last 3 weeks.
Okay, well, very briefly, on Monday evening, May 16th, someone deleted Sweeney's Google Workspace, including Google files for the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. Now, the Workspace is the place where the accounts for a particular organization like Sweeney are kept. If files are created by somebody in that account and you delete the account, the files associated with them, including YouTube videos, emails, and so on, also get deleted. Now, there is a 20-day window where the admin login for Sweeney could log in and reverse that deletion and everything came back. But the admin did not have the password that should have, and we could not convince Google that I say we, at Sweeney, was actually the owner of the account until after the 20-day window passed. And there were some possibilities that just didn't code. So as a result, I am relinking files from backups to the web page. So there's some missing things, and we have reestablished the email addresses so that, for example, multnomah-chair@sweeney.org is a valid email address, and so on. So we've got the communications back, but to get it complete will take a few more days. And we apologize for the interruptions, the confusion, and the non-communication, but we're working on it and making progress.
Very succinctly put. It has been interesting to say the least, because we have so much tied up into those files as far as our the minutes from previous meetings, et cetera, the Zoom files, et cetera. I will say this, though, that the situation has motivated the board to find alternatives. One of the things that we have done is we have gone ahead and purchased two new domain names so that we can be autonomous in our email. One is multnomana.org, and one is mnapdx.org. So, and we got also the .coms for those as well. So the idea here is that now that we have our own domain names, we can do our own thing and not be dependent on the Southwest Neighborhoods services for those things, for those types of services. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. Sweeney has been fantastic through working through this. They've been Johnny on the spot to try to deal with the situation. It was certainly unexpected. So, but we are moving forward. And as I say, if my email finally is working again, so at multnomah-chair@sweeney.org. And over the next few weeks, Will and I will be working together to get everything back up online and available to folks, and actually start to implement those new domains. So that'll be some fun stuff too. Does anybody have any questions for Will and I on that topic? Would anybody like to ask a question about that? That's fine. But I do want to just commend Will, quite frankly, though, for all of his efforts on helping us reconstruct our web-based files, and also him doing all the web work. He's been an amazing webmaster for us. I see Bill and Penny have their hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say I'm really impressed that you guys have been able to pull that back. And thank you. It's wonderful that you were able to do that.
Lots and lots of credit go to Will and go to the folks over at Sweeney. But yeah, agreed. Thank you for saying that. Thank you very much, Penny. And thank you again, Will. We'll get this all lined up, and we'll give out a report, and we'll be able to communicate with folks a little bit easier here from here on out. So if there's no other questions on that particular topic, it is 7:10. We're a little bit early here, which is good. We have let's go into our board and committee reports. As you know, first would be myself, and it's been a complicated month with the communications breakdown, with the email and the website that's been going on. Things have been happening very slowly on the SRV situation. I'll go into a little bit more detail of that on the old business when I give an update there. But I do like to, I do want to point out, though, that summertime is the most exciting time and the most beautiful time in this neighborhood. And I do want to encourage folks to get out and to partake in this beautiful place where we live. You know, we've got Multnomah Days coming up, and we've been seriously, and we'll be talking about this a little bit later, you know, what kind of a commitment that the neighborhood association could do to participate in Multnomah Days and make it, because this will be the first Multnomah Days, good Multnomah Days post-pandemic. And so that's some food for us to think about. Volunteers are going to be needed. Also, while I've got a crowd of people here, if we have anyone that can assist us as secretary, it would be greatly appreciated. It's a very minimal commitment of time. You just have to be able to take notes according to the rules and make sure that I get a copy of it so that we can post it for everyone else to be able to see. We've been able to improvise here the last month through Will's ingenuity of using the Zoom log to be able to get everybody's comments documented. But technically, we need a secretary. So if anybody would like to give back, contribute some time to the neighborhood association in that small role, boy, reach out to me at my working email, multnomah-chair@sweeney.org. So thank you. I'm going to now go to our vice chair, Beth Omansky. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth. I don't have a report as vice chair, but I will have much to say in the Public Safety Committee report.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, Treasurer Tad Davis. How are we looking financially, sir?
Hi, Moses. Same as last month. There were no transactions in May, so the account balances are the same as last month. $123.77 in the general account, $362.28 in the community events account, $81.81 in the land use account. That's a total of $567.86. There will be a transaction this month, $35.16 for the domain names that you mentioned just a few minutes ago that were purchased this month.
Excellent. And with one of the things that just to mention this as an aside for the treasurers under money is we need to start thinking about fundraising opportunities for the neighborhood association. I know that we stay pretty static at this point, but it'd be nice to have $1 or $2 to be able to do more and do more for the neighborhood. So some food for thought for the membership. Thank you, Tad. Next up, let's get into committee reports. First up is land use and Mr. Frank Redloff.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to report. I guess a couple of things. One is there is a new development under construction on 24th across the street from the Fred Meyer gas station. It was a development that was completely done, within the confines, within the criteria of the zoning code. So no notification was received by the neighborhood association, and so it's under construction. I believe it's 16 or 18 units, apartments on 3 floors on that site. So it's it is sort of in the Barber corridor. So that's where we would want the density to develop, and there it is. The other thing, there's been some activity regarding the 4144 Southwest Canby development, and it's progressing. The demolition of the existing buildings, I believe, or the deconstruction, perhaps I should say, of the existing house, I believe is underway. I haven't seen for myself, but I did receive a notification that the developer is going to offer, the opportunity for people to, I guess, to scavenge some of that material sometime in the near future. So, so there's that, and beyond that, there's just what's over my shoulder, which is probably a little too bright in this light, but is the Safe Dress Village is operating right behind me. So that's what else is up, and as a land use issue. But I think that's it.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much. Good view. I mean, impactful view. Next up, and now Corinne Wallace is our transportation chair. I do know that Corinne.
Peter has his hand up.
Excuse
there,
me.
Moses.
Oh,
Today.
pardon me, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Peter, go ahead, please. I didn't see that.
Frank, thanks for that report. Do you know if the project on 24th has either an affordable housing unit or units or off-street parking?
I can assure you it has no off-street parking. But I don't know about the affordable units at all. I mean, like I
Okay.
said, we weren't notified, so I don't, it's just going on Portland maps that I sort of discovered much of anything.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Now, next up would be Corinne Wallace in Transportation, and she does have an excused absence tonight. One thing that she did want to let folks know, one thing I want to let folks know about what she was doing, some of her work that she was doing, was that you'll notice that the garbage is no longer along the side of the road there by when you come off of I-5, coming down onto the Multnomah Boulevard from that exit. Her efforts obviously have paid off from contacting PBOT and I think it was ODOT that ended up removing it because it was an ODOT responsibility because of that strip right there. So I do want to commend Corinne for that. Also, she will be doing it in an email. We'll be getting it out there, and that was Multnomah Days. And she was looking for volunteers to folks that might be interested in helping us with sponsor the fire truck, the Portland Fire Department truck, the one that is down there on the other side of the neighborhood, to come and make a visit, to be at Multnomah Days and to interact with folks there. So we'll send out a communication on that. Yeah. Okay, next up would be Public Safety and Beth Omansky.
Excuse me, Patrick, are you here? Patrick
Yes,
Brunette?
yes, hi, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, great. I wanted to say that Patrick stepped forward a month or two ago, wanting to help with public safety issues. And we ended up creating a subcommittee under the Public Safety Committee that will be called the Livability Committee. And Patrick has already started working on that. He's been in touch with well, I don't want to give you a report, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, I want to introduce Patrick Brunette and our new subcommittee, and he also has invited a police officer to attend our meeting, I believe to give a crime report. So take it away, Patrick.
Okay, thank you, Beth, and thanks, Moses. I did approach Moses and Beth a couple of months ago, and they were very supportive of the idea of a neighborhood livability committee. There was, at that time, there seemed to be a rash of graffiti, broken windows, and other issues in the neighborhood. And, my strong belief is that Multnomah is a jewel and we need to maintain it. And graffiti is very bad for business and for residents and for the visitors patronizing our neighborhood and our businesses. So the vision is to have a standing subcommittee to focus not just on the village, but also the surrounding areas, residential and business as well, with the idea that abating graffiti can help curtail other property crime, like petty theft, break-ins, and broken windows. And we're getting into graffiti season. So we want to create strong liaisons with partners, both at the city and Metro. Metro, which I'll talk about in a moment, has a great paint program. And also the city, as you probably know, has a reporting site that is very active. And I was able to speak with both John Stipe over at the city and Oliver Dixon, who is at Metro. And we want to continue our strong liaisons with them. I was able to talk to Peter Tolan Baker, who's the president of the Multnomah Village Business Association, also very supportive. And I'd like to also reach out to a group in Hillsdale called the Usual Suspects, which are already doing this good work up in Hillsdale. So addressing graffiti is a multi-step process. The first can usually involve approaching a business or a property owner diplomatically and reminding them, or maybe even informing them that there's graffiti on their property, and either asking them to take care of it or volunteering to help them take care of it. There's also obviously the reporting app that the city has, PDX Reports. There's an app on your phone, but there's also a site on the OCCL site that's a little bit more involved, more elaborate, and you can get actually more information on that. What the city is asking for is an accurate address of the graffiti, a clear photograph of it, and if you can, try to spell out a description of what the graffiti says. They are trying to discern patterns of graffiti behavior and hotspots of graffiti vandalism, such as gang tags. And they actually are well-versed in understanding what those tags say and what they mean. In terms of the Metro recycled paint program, many of you are aware that Metro is the recycling hub for the entire state for recycled paint. And they not only do they have 12 standardized colors that are dirt cheap, $15 a gallon, but they also provide a cleanup kit and a painted up kit. The cleanup kit looks something like this. You get this cool bucket, and inside the bucket are a spray remover, gloves, a scraper, rags, goggles, and these are for easy to medium difficulty tags such as stop signs, glass, and some painted surfaces. For those that can't be removed, we have a painted up kit, which looks something like that. And in the painted up kit, there's a roller, a brush, a pan, some painter's tape, and you can get up to 5 gallons of a generic color like gray, beige, or khaki, which is perfect for covering up graffiti on concrete walls. I will put up the link to both of these things on the chat board for the minutes. So we're looking for volunteers around the neighborhood to help both be a kind of a rapid response team, to know what the resources are, and engage also in these quarterly cleanups, which are what the Hillsdale group is doing. Obviously coordinating with the Solve cleanup days and other activities that Moses described with the bridge cleanup. And also we're very open to ideas about what the Livability Committee should and could take on in terms of its charge and its mission. So with that, I'll stop and certainly answer any questions, but I would like to also reserve time to introduce Officer Jervis, who's been kind enough to join us tonight. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or address any issues in this first part.
Fantastic. Here, I noticed that Amanda Fritz has her hand up. Go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you. I've been working with the Friends of Gabriel Park to do a volunteer graffiti removal. I have about half a dozen of those graffiti removal kits that you have, Patrick. So I'm happy to deliver those, train folks, because obviously the best way to keep graffiti away is to get rid of it as soon as it appears. And that stuff really works well. So my work has been mostly focused in parks, but I'd be happy to work with the business district and with your group to spread the wealth.
Thanks, Amanda. I'll contact you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Charmaine?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if the subcommittee had thought about reaching out also to the Arts Center about any sort of murals, public art that could replace the graffiti. That's a good deterrent and a beautification option. And then there's also for areas that are PBOT property could apply for street painting permits.
Those are great ideas, which I hadn't thought of. You know, on the topic of murals, they're a great deterrent. And also they make this great product, which is a coating, an anti-graffiti coating, which actually helps preserve the murals that once it's on there, all you have to do is just wash it off with some soap and water and the graffiti tag goes away. So I'd love to talk to them about that. And also say the second one again, the PBOT.
Street painting permit.
Okay.
It's through
on the
Portland
surface.
Gov, yeah.
Yeah.
On the surface of the street, but then I think also for any sort of like under bridges on the support structure and such.
Okay.
As well.
Let me explore that with you, and may I contact you with any questions you have? Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. Thanks.
Awesome. Next up, Corinne Wallace. There she is. Hello.
Wait, excuse me.
Hi.
I think that was going to introduce the officer.
Corinne had a real quick question, I thought, but it looks
Yeah.
like she does not now. Or does she?
No, no.
Go ahead.
Quick question. I just wanted to comment on Charmaine's talking or mention of murals and reaching out to the art center about that. The business association, when they did the Earth Day event, there was talk of, I think most people have probably seen the planters in the island painted. They've had other conversations about additional murals around the business district, and that they've been interested in. And so, Patrick, you might want to connect again with Peter on that, because I know that there's more talk of bringing more of that to the village. And then in regards to transportation and street paintings, I'd be happy to help partner with anybody who wants to get something going on that and to be a lending hand in that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. All right, Beth, back to you.
Oh, no, it's back to Patrick, who wants to
Oh.
introduce the officer he invited to the meeting.
Oh,
Or-
sure. Yeah. Well,
Go for it, please, Patrick.
Officer Jervis, I think I saw you. Are you there?
Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
You sure
Yes.
can. You
Yes,
sure
hi.
can.
Okay.
Hi.
All
Yeah,
right.
so Officer Craig Jervis was kind enough to agree to come and join us. I think, and I think most of people think it's great to have a strong relationship with public safety. And it really meshes with their outreach efforts at the Portland Police Bureau to have a strong relationship with communities that they serve. And so we've invited Craig, who happens to be one of our local cops that works in our area, either to give a crime report or to do a Q&A, whatever you're prepared to do, Officer Jervis. We'd be happy to hear from you at the end in meetings going forward.
Well, thank you for inviting me, first of all. I've been a police officer here at Portland for almost 22 years. I've worked the Southwest Portland area for over 5 years. So I know the neighborhoods very well. As far as a crime report, I always rely on the city's website itself. If you just a simple way to find to navigate crime statistics, and it's an easy interactive map. If you just Google Portland Police crime statistics, it will pull up a link to a crime report map, and you can scroll with your mouse over the several neighborhoods in the city, and you can just click that neighborhood and it will give you a detailed layout of crimes, from the very serious crimes down to the very minor petty crimes. And it right now, if you go to the website, I believe it goes back a whole year, but I think it's on May of 22 back to May of 21. So I don't think the city has updated the latest crime statistics from June. So it's fairly new, new data. So I don't want to bore you with like stats from the webpage itself. So like I said, if you just Google and go to the Portland Police crime statistics, and you can look from every neighborhood and find those statistics yourselves. But I'm open for any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody does have a question, either raise your hand or speak up. And
Yeah, Officer Jervis, thanks so much for coming. I don't want to be bored by statistics, so thank you for not offering too many statistics. But just as your experience on the ground, are you seeing trends that have changed over the last 6 months?
The big thing that you may all hear about is the catalytic converters thefts, which is a big problem. That's the one major trend in all neighborhoods, but I see myself and other officers are frequently taking those calls daily. So that's one thing that I see happening. One way that I see it, some citizens can prevent that from happening, and unfortunately it might cost a few dollars, maybe up to $50 to take your car to a muffler shop to install a shield over the catalytic converter. But it beats from it being stolen and having it replaced and going through insurance and things like that. So there's that. As far as other trends, I'm not seeing anything that stands out that alarms me per se. We are short-staffed, as everybody knows, so there's less of us out there. We're less visible, which brings into the graffiti that you brought up earlier. If there's more of us, obviously, there's going to be a deterrent as far as in being visible in the public from the folks who are doing the graffiti. So, and the other thing is the wait times. I know citizens are being put on hold for quite some time on the non-emergency line, up to hours to 2 hours. And I know the Bureau of Emergency Communication is having a staffing crisis as well. So, and I know that's one reason why folks are being put on hold for so long. So that's the one major trend that I see now, and maybe going forward. I'm not sure what their staffing levels are like currently, but I know they are low. So that's what I have for current trends.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Officer,
Thank you for that.
oh, go ahead, Beth, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you, officer, for giving us, I don't drive, and so I don't have a car, but I think that's a great idea to go to the muffler shop and get a cover for the catalytic converters. I had not heard that there was a solution like that, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Patrick, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Officer Jervis, you have a line on the number of broken windows in this town. It seems like a lot of them are just kind of vindictive and malicious and not really associated with break-ins per se. What's going on with that?
That's a good question. I don't have a solid answer for you. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And as far as the windows, they take a long time to be replaced. It's frustrating. You have to order it. You have to have somebody come out and have to size it up and give you an estimate, then order it, then wait for it to be delivered and then installed. I don't know. That's a great question of why the uptick in broken windows. I don't want to blame it on a certain group or anything like that. Maybe it's just an influx of people being forced out of certain areas and moving into the neighborhood. Usually on those type of calls, we are, playing defense. We get the call, it happened overnight and the person who did it is no longer around. And that's hardly a deterrent at all. When we're not there right away, if it doesn't happen, and it's usually overnight. And usually for something like a property crime where something is damaged, we don't have the ability to book that person into the jail right now. Misdemeanor level, even felony crime level property crimes are not being booked. We're giving those folks citations. So that's unfortunate. And that's entirely up to the county jail, what they're accepting as being booked. So those are a few things that stand out about the broken windows.
I saw a business here in the neighborhood with a broken window. Is that a situation where we would want to reach out to the business owner and offer assistance if we can help them in any way to deal with those?
Most definitely. If that could be something, following up on something like that I think would help definitely, to see if they need community assistance of any kind to get it repaired, or if they need police assistance of any kind of follow-up. A lot of these places may be just a simple solution of having an extra set of motion lights at night. Those are fairly inexpensive. Any hardware store carries those for under $50 or less. That could be a deterrent. So yeah, that most definitely, I would say you can definitely step forward and ask if they need any assistance from us or from anybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, officer. And we have one last question and then we'll go, we'll stop taking your time.
Oh, no, not a problem.
Thank you, officer. Brooke
It's no
Lloyd,
problem.
go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, well, first off, let me just say thank you, Officer is it Gervais?
Jervis,
Jervis,
yes.
thank you. I have a couple of questions. Basically, it boils down to, I'm curious, because you are so short on officers right now, is it not possible to have the officers who work out of the substation do community policing? Because we have called people that live in the building across the street have called the police numerous times for people who are violent and mentally unstable, who are approaching people on the street or trying to get into the building. There are kids in the neighborhood, their parents drop them off here so that they can skateboard, but they circle the people with dogs and cause a lot of chaos. They break the bricks that are in front of the main entrance. They're notoriously hiding behind the bus stop so that they will skate out in front of cars to jump over a little drop off next to the chiropractic clinic across the street. I mean, it's literally, we've called so many times for so many different things, and it's all related to safety, but it almost seems like unless somebody is physically getting beaten up or attacked, we're just not getting anybody to respond, even though there are vehicles over there. And I know that there's more going on than just property crime in the area, because I see drug paraphernalia all over the ground as well. That is also a concern, because I know one of the guys in the building said that his daughter went to go pick up a needle the other day in the park. My dog has been poisoned twice by edibles that she's picked up just walking around the neighborhood. So I'm just curious what we can do, if anything, to get the officers that work in the neighborhood to engage with us a little more often when we call for assistance. Any suggestions?
First of all, I apologize for the response, the slow responses that you're getting. I know it's a little bit of the staffing issue. Depending on if you're calling, like you said, you've called several times, or other people have called several times, depending on the situation and how you describe the situation to the call taker in the 911 center. They obviously triage that depending on what's going on. If something is an emergency, or if there's needs to be an officer there right now, it's up to the dispatcher to make that decision of what type of priority that is for us to be there.
Right, I get that, but I mean, this is literally, we are walking up to officers asking for help. And we are told that we have to call 911 and wait for someone to assist us. And when we call, we don't have anyone that can help you right now. Well, you know, when you walk up to an officer and ask for help, you kind of expect them to help you.
I would expect that as well. I'm sorry you had that experience. That usually, if there's something some type of action that needs to be taken, and you're walking up to an officer and they give you that's unacceptable. First of all,
well, and I don't want to get into details, but when you're reporting a suspected dead body, and they say if you need to tow a vehicle, they give you a number. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you can walk up to an officer and say, I'm concerned that there might be a dead body over here. And their reaction was literally to give me advice on something unrelated to the potentially deceased person. And then they went back inside and didn't handle the situation. I mean, I waited for 20-25 minutes to see them take off to go and check this out, and it never happened. I gave up. So
Brooke, I'm sorry about this. Is there a Brooke, you know, we're just on a time crunch here. I've tried to allow you to be able to, because we don't get a chance to talk one-on-one like this. too often. Sir, officer, if you wouldn't mind, you're welcome to take a minute and answer Brooke's question to the
Sure.
best of your.
What I can do, I'll provide Patrick my information, my email, and everybody here can voice their concerns if they want to email me questions on the back end here. And I can answer those questions in length, or you can provide your phone number. I can call you.
That would be great. I think a number of us here would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll give Patrick already knows my email. And I allow him to give that out to anybody who wants it. It's fairly easy. It's my first name, Craig.Jervis@portlandoregon.gov. So it's really easy to reach me. I work from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sometimes I'm here on the weekend because we're short staffed. I'm here to help out. Sometimes I'm not in the Southwest area when that happens, but feel free to email me and I will reach out to you directly. And we can go from there.
I'll put that in the chat to you, Moses, that email.
Wonderful. And Officer Jervis, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. As you can tell, your invitation to this or to our meeting is something we used to do this every meeting. We used to always, back when it was when there was the area was divided up differently and the Multnomah Arts Center was a hub. There was pretty much always somebody there, and
right.
More. So we always had the same gentleman come in, officer come in, and so it's nice to be able to see, put a face, a human being behind the efforts. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank you,
good. All
Patrick.
right. Yeah. Good
I-
job, Patrick. Good job.
And I'll
Equity.
have
Oh, go ahead, Beth.
Excuse me.
Please. Go ahead.
things to talk about with the actual Public Safety Committee, but I reserved that for next month, so, because there's nothing urgent. And I wanted to give that time to Patrick and the officer. So
Very
thank
good.
you both.
You're welcome.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Last but not least, Will, you have just a couple moments here to talk both equity and communications, please.
Okay, I can do that. Very briefly, equity is reaching out to other people and treating people with respect. And that really applies right now. The biggest equity issue I think we have is how we deal with the Safe Rest villagers and the homeless around us and other people who are not terribly people it's easy to respect. Doing that in a way which is self-respecting. So your own safety, your own right to be here is also honored. And that's a missing piece often when we talk about equity. I want to emphasize that respect for someone who has been traditionally unrespected is absolutely something to do. Respect for anyone is part of the equation. So let's leave that at that. We are doing a couple of things with equity that are equity related in communication. There's a whole look to get a look at what this is by the other partner who's here and not in communication right now, but has been a really stellar person for communication, is Carolyn Devine, who has gone over our communications things, improving them. What we are doing is reaching out to the people who volunteer with us, the committee chairs and the officers and so on, and any active citizen who wants to say, what is it you value about how you volunteer and what do you need to be a good volunteer? So we can get a good cohort of people whose time isn't wasted by volunteering to be like the secretary or to take on a project like graffiti. Along those lines, we will be communicating. We'll be going to visit a couple of apartment buildings, the Headwaters Village down near the Chevron Station on 30th has invited us to come and talk to the seniors who live there, people who subsidize senior housing. So reaching out to where people are rather than waiting for them to come to us is a way of making our neighborhood representative of all the people, not just the few who have the time and the moxie to come to a meeting. If I may take one more little thing,
Sure.
very briefly. Last week, I want to report on the vote from last meeting. There is a detailed spreadsheet on the website under this meeting. Take a look at it. But I wanted to say that I made mistakes up the yin yang about what actually happened, and I apologize for that. After looking at it, voting has three pieces. There's the actual vote polling. There's people who don't have a chance to do that, so they have to vote manually. And finally, there's a reconciliation of those against the credentialed actual members. So if someone accidentally voted was not a member, we don't count it. If someone who's a member didn't get a chance to vote or voted a different way, we get a chance to correct it. After that, the spreadsheet shows what the final total really was after the polling, the manual things, and the reconciliation. In this case, the vote was to accept the GNA process, the Good Neighbor Agreement process. And as we saw on the screen briefly, but the numbers were wrong, there were 74 credential members who were able to vote. Of those, 66 voted yes, 3 voted no, which is a total of 69 actual votes, or a 96% yes vote, which, as we confirming by the numbers, it was overwhelming. Another 5 of the members didn't prefer. 1 abstained and the others didn't vote. So those are the numbers that are detailed on the website in this meeting tonight, this meeting's page. If you would like, give me a call or send me an email. I'll be glad to explain it further, but I won't take time now. That's it.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much. All right, it is 7:48. We're only 3 minutes behind schedule here. Let's get into the old business. First off is the Capitol Highway construction project. Chris Lyons, recently the chair of the subcommittee interfacing with PBOT, NODOT, and those folks on that project, recently had a meeting to update the community on the project. And in the folder for this evening's meeting, you'll see the PowerPoint display that they used in that meeting. And I call that out because if you take a look at that, it's quite impressive, the amount of work that they have done to so far. I know that I know that they're a little bit behind schedule. I can think about a couple months behind schedule, but even with that, they've made some pretty amazing progress as far as the stormwater facilities that are going to be needed, the paving, the retaining walls, etc. So I encourage you, if you'd like to get a good update on that project, take a look at the PowerPoint presentation, and they go into really good detail as far as where they're at and where they will be and where they're going next, what they're doing next. So I did want to mention that. Any questions about Capitol Highway, about that project? Okay. Next up, update from the negotiation team on the SRV GNA. At our last meeting, the motion was made and approved by 96% approval of the present members to allow to accept the current GNA and to allow the negotiating team to work, interface with the city to get the final version that will come back here to the membership for their review. While that has been going on, there has also been discussions going on with a coalition of neighborhoods that also have SRVs, Safe Rest Villages, in their neighborhood. And one thing that we have been really struck by is that, at least I have, is every area, every neighborhood has a village is unique. But what the city is acknowledging is that the ones that have schools nearby need to be treated a little differently, need to be taken into account. The school, the safety of our children and our families is the predominant theme in how they're going about this, as I gather it. So we do not have a signed GNA yet. We are still working on it. We had a meeting with the chief of staff of Dan Ryan's just last week. And, you know, there has been progress. You know, I'm reticent to go into too much detail about it, not out of a sense of not being transparent, but just negotiations being how they are. You don't want to talk too much about them, but I do want to assure everyone that it's looking very positive that the GNA, as we submitted it, is going to be accepted. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm crossing my fingers that that will be the case. I do have a couple of the other members of the negotiating team on the line at the meeting tonight. If anyone desires to add to my comments on this, they are very welcome to raise their hand and contribute to this update. Otherwise, that's where it stands. I venture to say time-wise, I'd like to, I mean, obviously we wanted to have the GNA enacted by the time residents got to the village, and that has not been the case. But even with that, even in that environment, the GNA, the Good Neighbor Agreement that we negotiated, that we created, that we are negotiating, is still extremely relevant and will still be a part of the overall management, if you will, of the village. So I'm very optimistic.
Moses, can I ask a question?
Who is this? Where are we at here? I see a hand risen by John Emschwaller. Pardon me. John, yes, sir. Is that who says that?
They are currently admitting people into the SRV, I believe. Do you
Yes.
know what criteria are they using for the admissions?
I honestly, I do not know. I'm not aware.
So the city hasn't given you, in these meetings, any indication of what criteria they're using to say yay or nay for somebody?
Charmaine, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to tackle this question? Is this a question that you want to answer?
Yes, and I'm wondering if it might be something we could post with the neighborhood association now that we have some our files back. But All Good Northwest has a lengthy interview intake process. Andy Goebel has said that he would rather screen people in than screen people out. And so they're looking for people who are willing and able to follow rules in order to live in community. So, I mean, it's basically like you're going to college and living in the dorms, and you need to get along with people. You need to get along with each other, and you need to get along with the neighborhood and be on good behavior. So it's not in their interest to have folks who can't abide by their rules and their behavior guidelines to be living in the SRV. So we did get those documents early on from All Good Northwest. Like the village ground rules for participants to follow to be able to live there, as well as the intake questionnaire. Do you have those, Moses?
I do.
In your files? Okay,
They
yeah.
are on the website. They've been restored.
Okay, good, good. Yep.
Great. Okay, so there's some
Yep.
good reference material there. From that.
But in terms of any of the additional like screening that we had requested in the GNA, that's still under the negotiations.
Very good. Brooke, you have your hand up.
Sorry, I probably could have taken that down. My question was somewhat answered. I was just curious why we would believe that they would ever sign this agreement with us now that they've already opened up and are doing this.
Well,
There's no incentive at this point for them to do this. I mean, they've already opened up. They're already operating. They don't have to meet any of the requirements that we've requested. right?
Well, they are in good faith still negotiating with us, and they are in very good intent and in good faith working with us to, as far as the points on the GNA. I mean,
But if we're not,
That's
I mean, you're saying that, but I don't know that a lot of us are seeing that.
I hear what you're saying. I do. Frank, I see your hand up. Frank, did you have a question
Yeah, sorry.
or comment?
I was going to respond to a question, then I got started doing something else. I guess I have one other thing I wanted to say. Just, there's, I at least feel some conflict. And I don't know that it's, I don't think that you share it, especially, but just in terms of negotiating this good neighbor agreement with the city, and the nature of our relationship with the other neighborhood associations that where SRVs are being located. There's some sense of you present the notion that special treatment for SRVs located in your schools is a good thing, and I'm not sure that I feel that that's so fair. I mean, after all, every SRV has families and children who live nearby. And in some ways, it might be argued that SRVs, that schools are better able to manage their populations and protect them than a bunch of individual families who live around the SRVs. So I'm uncomfortable with the way the city is currently approaching this sort of divide and negotiate location by location, and it just makes me uncomfortable. And I think we need to be, not maybe so gung ho about that situation. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Does there anyone? Oh, okay, go ahead, Brooke. I see your hand up. Did you have another?
Sorry, that was just an applause, a clap.
Oh, a clap. Okay, that was an affirmation, Frank. Okay, very good. So, are there any other questions? John, I see your hand up.
Yeah, one quick, do we get any sense from the city or county when negotiations will end? I mean, it's possible that they'll fill up the entire Safe Rest Village before there's any good neighbor agreement.
The impression I received was that we were meeting this week. We met last week. We're going to be meeting again this week. They were saying something about wanting to wrap up or get everything good with the other negotiations, the other two groups that have the villages that have schools nearby. They were focusing on that and getting their agreements firm, which then in turn allows them to be able to apply those to our situation. Not one for one, but in that sense. So I hope that I'll be able to positively report back next month in July with a reviewable document for everybody. That's my goal.
It does sound from the press like that they've been pretty adamant about not having criminal background checks included in the screening. Do you get a sense that's the case?
Well, it's not the city that I think it's very appropriate for me to say that the reticence isn't from the city. The reticence is from the county and JOHS.
The county has the final say, don't they?
Pardon me?
The county has the final say then on that, essentially.
On that section of it, yes.
Negotiating all with the county?
Pardon me?
Are we negotiating them with the county as well?
That's a part of it, yes, sir.
And are they still adamant pretty much that they don't want that?
Unsure yet as to their 100% position. I've heard through the back work that the current JOHS commissioner is adamant against it, but I've been hearing from other folks that they want to accommodate. I don't know. It's just, it's tough to get a beat on it, to be really honest with you, John. But I think that is where the challenge is, I think right now, is that we're at the point where this is, JOHS is handling the management of them all, and that the background, so that's the big issue. That's an issue.
As far as we know, they're not currently using a criminal background check as a screening device for the Safe Rest Village.
It depends on the definition of background check, but I would know that they have been.
Well, I mean, criminal
Charmaine,
background check, as
yeah.
we described it in our request, in our proposed GNA.
Yeah.
As far as you know, they're not using that.
Eventually, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Beth had her hand up, and then Frank. Beth, you're on mute. Maybe.
Maybe I could go first and Beth could.
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah. Go for it.
I just received this afternoon the contract between All Good Northwest and the county. So I just forwarded that to you, Moses, and to Will, so it can be posted on our website. But the other thing I wanted to say was that it's our understanding, based on conversations with the other neighborhoods, the downtown neighborhood association, who where there's the 2300 NATO site, that background checks are actually something that the city is not opposed to, but that it is that the county may not be in favor of that, like Moses was saying.
So, yeah, exactly. But let's see, Beth, are you online now? Yes, hi.
Yes,
Beth?
I am.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm wondering if we could, or if it's a good idea, to invite a representative from All Good Northwest to attend our monthly meetings, just to answer questions or give us a little report about how it's going.
I agree 110% with that, and I'll make arrangements for it from here on out.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Beth. Good suggestion. Ruth, you're up next.
Thanks. I just want to kind of second Charmaine's points that, that All Good, they want this to be successful. The city and the county want this to be successful. You can read the detailed kind of guidelines and intake procedures that they do. Whether or not the Good Neighbor Agreement dictates to them, which is not, again, in my view, not appropriate for it to in any case. The Good Neighbor Agreement is about how we communicate, how we stay in touch. We know already that All Good is going to have 24/7 staffing, and they have the phone number that I think it already has or will soon be widely available. So just to say it again, the obvious, that they want this to be simple. They're working really hard to do a thoughtful intake, are going to be able to guide by their guidelines. And the sort of grassroots group called Friends of the Multnomah SRV has started up. For those of us who want to find ways, we were invited to donate blankets and pillows, and had a really wonderful outpouring of support from the community. So really appreciate folks who contributed to that. FMSRV.org is our website if you want to find out more. We're getting lawn signs out for those who wish to show support. So just really appreciate those who are supportive, and the work of All Good come in. And one of our members of our group talked to the staff there, and just had a really wonderful report that the first folks who came in, just to be able to have a peaceful night's sleep, a quiet night's sleep. Maybe they had come from Old Town, I'm not sure, but just how much that meant for them to be able to have that peace. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. I do want to also mention that we have received a contact name and a 24/7 phone number from All Good that I will disseminate out to the public, to folks.
This is
So
also posted on the website.
Right, exactly. And the purpose of that is to have that one point of contact that we've talked about in the past within the village, so that if is a concern, there is something that needs to be dealt with immediately, we can, there's staff there 24/7, so we have a contact point person there 24/7. Charmaine?
I also wanted to add that the move in terms of getting people in before the GNA was in place, that was really dictated by the county, and they're closing the Old Town Village and needing to move people. And so that, I think, was a kind of a unilateral decision, because it was not necessarily something that the city knew exactly was going to happen here and there and when and where everybody happened fairly fast. But the city has so far been pretty communicative regarding our negotiations. And then I had one more thought, but I just forgot it. So move on. I'll raise my hand if I remember.
Oh, was it you were going to become our new treasurer or secretary?
Oh, secretary. I'll have to think about that.
Please do. I have just made a public appeal to you, Charmaine. Okay. Let's see. Is anybody else got their hand up? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, good. If there's no other questions in regards to this, oh, you do have your hand back up. Okay, go ahead.
I remembered. The other piece of the GNA that the city has so far been amenable to is the advisory group. And that would be made up of Multnomah Village residents, as well as representatives like staff or even participants of the SRB. And so that group, if all parties agree to establishing such a group, would be also a way for us to have continuous collaborative discussions, problem solve things as a community.
Very good. We will have ongoing conversations, of course, about this situation. We'll definitely talk about it in July. And knock on wood, I'll be coming back in July with a document for the folks for everybody to review, and very good news on that front. But I will stay in touch for sure. It is 8:09. Let's go ahead and ahead of schedule here, move on to new business.
Moses?
Yes.
Could we credential members before we go further? Because we don't have a count of members yet.
All right, we don't have anything to vote on.
That still means we need to record the members present.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, if I may, this will be very brief. This is a poll like we credentialed people last time, a similar poll. And what happens is I will say members with one member, members with two members, or three or more. You check whichever one is present, is there. If you're not a member, you can say you're not a member, but that's just for information purposes. Then once that's gone, we will display the results. Right away. And that's it. That's the process. And then we'll get a grand total of how many members are present. Okay?
Okay. Okay, so now, once again, Will, how are they going to vote then?
There will be a ballot showing on the screen for everybody to see, and they'll punch the button or check off the box that is whether you're a single member, two members, or three or more, or you're not a member at all. And then when we will do that for a few minutes, once it's got enough people coming in, Moses will count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll display the results. Okay?
Okay, very good. Let's do it.
Okay, if we're ready, I'm going to launch the poll. Here we go.
Very good. Very good. This is nice. So like right now, when I look at the poll, because I'm a host and I can't vote, I see out of 27 people, no, 28 out of 30 people have participated. I see 15 out of 28 is yes, one member.
Okay.
I see 8 out of 28 are 2 members on that login. I see one person that has 3 members there.
This will be displayed in a minute when you close the poll.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. Okay. And then, so yeah, everybody will see what I am seeing here when it comes to this poll.
Okay.
And, oh, and I just realized in 28 out of 30 folk, 22 being you and I, because we're hosts. Cool.
Okay. I'm ready to end the poll. Okay.
Go for it.
Now I'm going to share the results. Now everyone should see what's there. I will repeat. This is just the vote. We're not finished yet. We got to do the manuals, but hold on. So of the votes that came through, 15 out of 28 or 54% were one member, 8 out of 28 or 29% were 2 members, and 1 has 3 or more members on here. That's a pretty big number. And so let's take the 15 plus 8.
16.
And then plus 1. Okay. That's the first part. That's the number of logins was 15 plus, that's 23, 24 logins. Okay, check my math if I'm wrong. Then we add to that the second member on the 2. So we add the 8 second members and the 3. Is there more than 3? The one who voted 3 or more, are there more than 3 people on that or just 3 people?
3 total.
3 total. Okay, so add the 3 there.
Add the 2.
Yeah, the 2 extras. That's right. The 2 extras. So we have 24 plus 8 is 32 plus 2 is 34. I get the count. So that's the poll. Now, people who were not able to do the poll, if you would now raise your Zoom hand, like Ikoko Henderson just did, keep going. Anybody else that was not able to vote on the poll?
That would be, and Beth, because she was on the phone, would that be, that'd be 1.
Okay. And then Beth, and then I and Edith, and Moses, you're a member. Okay. And I think that's 5 people that were not able to vote on that. So we add those 5 to the 34. So we have present at this point 39 members of the neighborhood association, and that has been recorded. That will be recorded on the spreadsheet and reported at our next meeting.
Cool.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Will.
That was a lot less painful than the other stuff, I think.
I'm amazed, quite frankly, how clean, given the format, given the platform here, that is. Boy, considering that vote that we had where we were a couple months ago, where it took us forever to figure it all out. And you know what's ironic? Here we are finally figuring this stuff out virtually, and we're going to start to have in-person meetings again here in the near future. That's a topic I'd love to have with folks, and I'm just going to bring it up here to get people thinking about it, if I may. Some sort of an in-person meeting over the next few months would be appropriate. And I would love to see everybody in person. I would love to see everybody in person. So I'm gonna throw that out there, and I might just schedule something tentative in, for instance, in August, maybe at first meeting that we do in person, maybe we should not have conduct business. Maybe it should just be a meet and greet, an ice cream social, if you will. Maybe I can get some ice cream from across the street of the Mac, that ice cream place there, something like that. All right, so we'll talk more about that. Let's see. It's so easy to lose the sense of community on virtually when we do these virtual meetings, and it just strikes me so much that we've got to reestablish that. And because this neighborhood, you folks are awesome. We're hiding behind these damn computer screens, and I want to see you guys. It's like I saw Mark Booth in the bank, for goodness sakes, and I recognized him and he had his mask on, and something's wrong with that. I don't want to recognize people because of a mask. Anywho, okay, next up. Let's talk about the outreach to the Headwaters apartment. This is part of our efforts to try to bring more folks into the neighborhood association and get broader representation and a better cross-section, if you will, of neighbors here. Will Fuller set this up, so I'm going to let him briefly talk about it real quick.
Well, this is briefly, it's a walk by a building, walk in and say, hey, we're the neighborhood association. Would you like to hear more about us? And the manager wasn't there, so they called us back. And when we explained what we were doing, they'd say, we'd love to have you. Because it's a bunch of seniors who don't necessarily participate. They don't feel welcome to participate. They have serious concerns. And their major issue is the catalytic converter thefts, the crime and vandalism and graffiti in the area, the things we talked about tonight with the police officer.
Tell people where the Headwaters.
It's the Headwaters again is down by on 30th. Actually, it's pretty well right across from the police station, but it's actually off of 30th and the fire station. Excuse me, thinking police. And basically, it's there are 2 units. The big one for the 100 units is Headwaters. They're willing to distribute our flyer to all 100 units. The senior one, where we're having the meeting, is smaller and it looks like it's part of the same unit. And so we're reaching out to people who usually don't come to meetings. Half the neighborhood is renters, and maybe if we get 20% on a meeting of renters, we're good and well. So this is part of our outreach happening on the 29th at the Village at Headwaters.
Cool. What's exciting about this too is that I'd like to see the neighborhood association do more things like this. And so I really want to thank you, Will, for setting this up. I will be there at 3 p.m. on the 29th and to represent the neighborhood association along with you. Next up, Multnomah Days. Corinne is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody have a question?
I haven't seen the flyer that you're going to, I guess you're going to give flyers to the people at the apartment complex. Is that right?
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like to see it?
Because they're seniors, to make sure to put it in large print.
Yes. It is in 14 point, but I'll check the print size.
Yeah, I think 16 or even 18 would work better.
Okay, I'll take a look. Thanks. Good point.
That's a really good point.
Okay. Oh, for our seniors especially.
Thank you, Beth. Corinne Wallace, hi. I can't. Thank you. I appreciate you sticking around to talk about the fire truck visit.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this the last conversation segues well into this. We had an excellent event with. I'm gonna pause until. Okay. We had a great event partnering with the Business Association and utilizing the resources of Solve and supporting the Business Association at the Earth Day event back in April. And I think that was a great beginning of our partnership with the Business Association, and they've asked for our support with Multnomah. And I've been trying to think about different ways on how we can do that. And I'm hoping to lean into this community at this meeting to get some additional ideas. The only thing that I've come up with so far is asking Station 18 to bring a fire truck down to the art center to let some kids take a look at the fire station, talk with a couple of firefighters, and get a chance to climb onto a real fire truck. And that's still in the works. Still have to confirm with the business association as well with Station 18 if they have the availability. It would kind of be depend on what their schedule looks like that day. If they have an emergency, obviously they can't come. But so we're hoping that the Multnomah Neighborhood Association can sponsor that, bringing a fire truck to the Multnomah Days. But also wanted to just take a minute, I know we don't have a ton of time, but to see if anybody has any ideas of how we can support Multnomah Days. And I know we don't have a ton of time here. If anybody wants to reach out to me, my email address is on the website, and wants to participate in supporting the business association with the Multnomah Days events. I'm happy to engage in dialogue about that.
Well, I do want to at least throw this out to the atmosphere here, and that is the parade. just I know that you and I talked about that, Corinne. Okay, I learned that Multnomah Days is not going to have the parade this year, which really makes me sad because the parade is, to me, the highlight of Multnomah Days. I have pictures of my now 17-year-old daughter when she was 5 years old at the top of the overpass, waving an American flag. I mean, just great memories of the parade. Anywho, it needs a sponsor. It needs someone to manage it. And so I had this wild idea that the neighborhood association could do it. I know that would require some bandwidth that your current leadership may not have. So it would require more participation from the membership if we were to do that. I think, I mean, it's not a project that would, I've seen it go from a very well-organized event. Every entry in the parade is assigned a number, and there's a little blurb about that correlating entry that is announced over from the roof of the Starbucks. But I've noticed this, but I went back and I looked, and the last couple of years, they've just said, show up over there at Handy Andy's. You know, if you want to participate, just show up over at Handy Andy's and get in line. And that seemed to work okay too. So anyhow, I just bring this up. I don't want to make any kind of a commitment to do it, but boy, if somebody else thought that would be a neat idea, I'd help. Patrick. You're up, Patrick, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just want to add my support for that idea. And it doesn't have to be the biggest parade we've ever seen in Multnomah. It can start off small. I'm thinking that, what is that band, The Second Time Around?
Yeah.
And they are great. And maybe a kids parade, kids love it. So something small would be nice, I think, to get back and to kind of build the parade aspect up slowly after a long hiatus.
Thank you for that, Patrick. Peter?
Hey, Corinne, the litter pickup was so much fun and successful that I wonder if we could pull a group together, either with or without Solve's help, to go around Sunday morning, first thing Sunday morning, to pick up after the day's festivities. And I'd be willing to help with that.
I'd be happy to. I think having the support of Solve made the event quite a bit more organized, because we get all their supplies, we get their web support, we get their marketing support, we get a roster put together so we know how many people are there. I would be happy to get that set up again. I won't be home here in town that Sunday, so I won't be able to lead it. But if Peter's around, I'd be happy to set up Solve to get it going if somebody can lead it on the ground day of. And with the parade, you know, I so want the parade to happen as well. I mean, I obviously have two little kids who've kept me quite busy tonight, but and the business association, when I engaged in this planning with them for Multnomah Days, they had mentioned, they're like, we just don't have the bandwidth. I don't think there's themselves to do it. And they did mention, like, if somebody else can lead it, they would do it. But I think at this part in the planning stage, it might be too far in, and I'm not sure if the logistics are still there. But like Moses said, if somebody here wants to raise their hand and say, I would lead it, I can connect them with the business association and see if it's still possible.
Patrick, your hand is still? Oh, okay. I thought he was gonna say, I'm in. Okay, so that's where that all stands, folks. And if, you know, I'll look at Corinne's kid. If, how am I gonna follow that? So if there is if someone is inspired by what I'm sharing here about the parade, reach out to me. I'll inspire you back and participate with you. If not, I totally get it. That's a lot. And what Peter's talking about there, coordinating with Solve the next day, that's a solid idea too. That would be a role that I think we could totally manage because we've done it already once, right? So we have some experience there. It might be a little bit more manageable to do that instead of the parade. Yeah. And so, I just hate to see that parade not happen. I don't know.
If we can't get to it this year, we'll do it next year. We'll do it
Okay.
next year. I think
You're
we can
on.
plan ahead and advance that.
I would
And
say-
then again, if anybody wants to reach out to me that has ideas of how also we can support Multnomah Days, please send me an email.
I would say if we want to manage a parade, we should start now for 2023.
Agreed. Penny, I see you waving your hand. Oh, you're on mute.
What's the date of Multnomah Days?
Oh,
Good question. It's August 20th. Thank you. Great question.
that's the third Saturday in August. Wow, it's coming up. That's what, 7 weeks, Patrick? 4, not very long, 9-10 weeks max. Okay, so there we go on that. Corinne, thanks for hopping on. I know you've got, obviously you have a home life there. That's awesome. Okay, last but not least here, we have formed a couple of different new work groups to try to address some basic some basic challenges that we have to tackle here over the next few months. The 2 work groups, the 3 work groups that we have is the technology work group, and that is meant specifically to address the issues that came up over the last 3 weeks. How do we prevent that from happening again in the future? Making sure that we have backup. Our technology is up to date and secure. I just want to make sure that we're never at the situation that we just went through again. And so I'd like to get a work group working on ways to improve. What do we have to do? What do we have to do? And make some recommendations and work with Will and I to get it up, to get us up to speed. The second work group is our bylaws. And on that work group, we do have a lot of work to do. It's going to require a review of a work group to study both the bylaws and our articles of incorporation and start to make some suggestions and recommendations on ways that we can tighten them, that we can improve them, that we can bring them back into the 21st century here, given our current situation. So obviously that would be something that any work that comes out of there would just be recommendations if you brought back to the general membership for a final vote on anything that would happen there. But the bylaws, we've got to start somewhere. And on that one, you would have the treasurer, Tad Davis, has stepped up to work with, and he's our parliamentarian and also our treasurer. He has stepped up to volunteer to help us on that work group. So it'd be, right now we have 2 members of it, myself and Tad, and anyone else who would like to participate.
Moses?
Yes.
I would like to volunteer for that as well. We worked on that several years ago.
I agree. Thank you, Beth, for stepping up. I appreciate that. So we've got we've got the board working on them now. Me, Tad, and Beth. Let's get some other folks in here. If anyone else has an interest in participating on that bylaws one, let us know. If you're a wonk like Beth and I are, and Tad are, as far as that sort of thing, it'd be a fun work group. The final one is our 501c3 status. Now, this one has come up because it's all part and parcel of where do we go next as a neighborhood association. The circumstances with Sweeney and with Civic Life have really brought to our attention that, we may need to take a hard look at our structure and how we handle this. Right now, if we are a 501c3, we have to have a fiscal sponsor and to have that status, if I understand it correctly. And that's where Sweeney has come in. And that's where Civic Life also can come in. They also can act as a fiscal sponsor for our nonprofit.
Moses, may I say something on that?
By all means, go for it.
Just briefly. So basically, the fiscal sponsor is the 501c3, the organization that can receive and disperse money. At this point, the city does not allow money to be dispersed to Sweeney or received from Sweeney. It's a fiscal non-entity. So as our fiscal sponsor, we're up a creek. If you get another fiscal sponsor, which is okay with the city, we still are beholden to them for our finances, and we are linked to them in how we do things. The city itself does not do fiscal sponsorship, but they could help us find one that would be an affiliated 501c3. It's a little more work at the number of dollars that we bring in. The paperwork is minimal, but if you bring in more, it can be considerable. And we need to look that over seriously, the pros and cons of being our own independent agency, fiscally as well as politically, so that we can have a little more direct clout. And when we're talking to the city and they're feeding us, or Sweeney and they're feeding us, we feel free to bite the hand that isn't feeding us.
Go ahead, Penny.
So it sounds to me like we could use a lawyer and an accountant as advisors in that process. Is that correct?
Never would hurt. I agree.
The accountant would know about filing the something 9, I've forgotten what it is, but the tax report each year for nonprofits.
990.
Thank you.
That's a good suggestion, Penny. That's right. And hey, Leah Fisher is here from Civic Life. Let her clarify a point or two here for us. Thank you, Leah. Hi.
Hey, y'all. Really good conversation to have. I wanted to add, because I think when I first started about 6 months ago with Civic Life, there was the communication that in order for a neighborhood association to get a reimbursement from Civic Life, they needed to be a 501c3, and that is no longer the case. So the Multnomah Neighborhood Association currently is a registered state nonprofit. What 501c3 status would give you is the ability to apply for a lot of grants. Most grants definitely with the city, but even non-city grants will only give funding to 501c3s. That's where a fiscal sponsor may be necessary. And then also, if you're accepting donations from folks who would like to have that be tax deductible for them, you need to be a 501c3. And so you can still accept donations as a state nonprofit. That's completely acceptable. You're just not able to provide that tax deductible receipt to the donors. And as Will mentioned, I mean, as of the last year, to become a 501c3, the barriers have been reduced significantly. I mean, it's about $250 paperwork and about 3 months wait time. So definitely the barriers have gone down. There are some perks, but there also are perks to, not having that additional IRS layer on an organization that's a volunteer organization. So yeah, I think having that discussion is really helpful. If you have someone with some expertise in organizational management, that could be really helpful. It could be a lawyer. I don't know if it has to be a lawyer. If you have a limited budget, I would almost recommend saving the lawyer fees for your bylaw updates. But yeah, just wanted to share that tidbit of info.
Thank you. Well, one thing I've also learned here too is that every now and then we have a volunteer that has that kind of expertise in our neighborhood. And if somebody does have any of those skills that would like to share or contribute to this project, that'd be cool too. That's another way that we can do it without spending a lot of money. But yeah, good stuff. Does that make sense to everybody, what we have to do there with that work group? So we've got to start to navigate this, and we've got to start to approach it because it's just time. And so yeah, I'll be sending out more information on all three of those work groups as we go along, or other appeals to members on those work groups, and we'll have reports back from those work groups at upcoming meetings as far as their progress, and if they in turn bring anything to that needs a vote to the general membership, we'll make sure there's enough time for everybody to really dig into it and understand it before we have a vote on it. Is there any other questions in regards to those work groups? That's wonderful. Okay. I do want to just mention one more time that my email now is finally working. So if you do have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything that you want to talk about the neighborhood association, what we can do, please send me an email. I will get it now, and we can get that ball rolling. It's 8:38. We're only 8 minutes past time, past the scheduled time for adjournment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn if someone would make one. I see a so moved there. Very good. Peter? Oh, okay.
Peter will second.
Wonderful. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Wonderful.
Aye.
I don't hear a no. I don't think there's going to be a no. So I'll do an assumptive close here. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Great questions, and we will stay in touch now that we can. And I want to thank you all very much for being here and spending some time with us. And all the best to everybody.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Folks. Have a good evening now.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Those of you we saw.
Agreed.
Thanks, Moses.
Thank you, Peter. Oh, save chat. Okay. Got it, Will. I saved the chat.
Okay, actually, we're doing automatic chat saves now, I think, but that's good.
Hi, Bill and Penny.
Yeah, Bill and Penny, yeah, hi, Bill and Penny.
Okay, great.
Now you can talk.
I think we got to put ice cream socials in there as part of the bylaws.
I would agree with that. Don't they do ice cream socials anymore?
We could make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, whether anyone else is doing it doesn't matter if it makes sense to us.
Why not?
I agreed. I see. We could have it under at the basketball court there at the neighborhoods at the MAC. I envision 5-gallon ice creams, and we're just scooping them and handing them to a kid.
Yep.
Or
only the kids
or adults.
Or adults. Yeah. I mean, what a cool event.
It'd be fun. It really.
I'd spend an hour doing that just to say hey to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give me a free ice cream.
One for me, one for you.
Nice work, everybody. That was a very civilized meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It
So,
sure was, and thank you.
yeah, we can do it.
Bill, Penny, I appreciate your participation, and I will follow up with you on this ice cream social idea.
Good.
It's a good one.
I think so too. All
Very
right.
cool.
Okay, Will, are we good here, Will? Have we saved everything? Can I hop
Yeah,
off?
I think we have, what with, the parameter to turn on automatic saving, the chats is working, I believe. We should also just have the vote displayed on the recording, which we'll find out, and we'll see what's going on. So at this point, I'm going to close off the recording.
Okay.